Hey everybody, welcome back to the, I almost said 73rd, and that would be incorrect, the 37th episode of Taps and Patience. I am your slightly dyslexic host, AJ with Design the Everything, and with me is co-host Harrison of Precision Ingenuity. Hi Harrison, I bungled this intro. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you doing?
I'm doing all right. Speaking of bungling, for everybody who is curious about the last podcast episode, we are aware that it is screwed up. We will release a new one potentially after this one comes out. Scott is working on getting that edited up so that Harrison and I weren't talking over each other. It was a problem with our recording software, Zencastr, and we will figure out how to fix that. Also, I will start previewing the podcast before I post them. Hi, Harrison. How you doing?
I'm doing good. Can't complain. Staying busy. So
that's good. Yeah. So how was? It sounded like you had quite a busy week last week.
Yeah. I had about everything that could go wrong, and but all that said, I got everything done that I needed to get done. So it was more along the lines of like scrambling around, but I managed to get all done, and then I'm still playing a little bit of catch up on my scheduling side of things. But I'm getting close. I worked all day yesterday,
which is Sunday.
To get caught up, and that made a big difference. So I'm getting close to getting back on track.
So what all was going wrong?
So did I talk about the titanium job from Xometry last week at all?
Yes, you were breaking taps.
Yeah. Well, I finished that job. So the job was supposed to ship on Tuesday. It ended up shipping out Thursday at like 6.
Okay.
And I ended up breaking, and the grand total I think was around 10 to 15 taps.
Okay.
Of 080 taps, trying to get the job done. And I tried to make one or two extra. I made one extra, and then the second extra that I was trying to make, the last tap snapped. So I literally ran all. I have no 080 taps right now.
Yeah.
And basically burned them all up doing that job. And I hand tapped for about 5 hours one day, basically.
Fun.
So just because my machine couldn't handle it, and we didn't have enough time to get the right equipment to make it work after talking to you and thinking about it a little bit more and whatnot. But anyways, job is done. I am happy, and we got more work that's coming through. So yeah, life is good.
Better to be busy than to be slow.
Yeah. So got that done. Got a 100-piece order finished up today. Had some gun stuff that I worked on today. Got your pens done.
Yeah.
So managed to, there's a little sneak preview. Managed to fit those in. So that was good.
Do you want to talk about some of the problems you had with that?
Yeah. So
speaking of jobs being problematic.
Excuse me. So on those pens, we got some long reach drill bits, and the chips were clogging the flutes really bad. Not only that, but they were also compacting. The chips were compacting, and they weren't falling out whenever I did the retract. And so what I ended up having to do was I had to slow my feed rate down to like a quarter of what the tool recommended. And then I had to retract slowly so that, because if going in and out too fast, for whatever reason, wouldn't allow the coolant to blow the chips off of the tool. So I had to run my machine at 25% rapids for the deep drilling cycle, which I had to manually turn it on and off. And then I had to retract it about 3 to 4 inches outside of the part to give the coolant enough space to blow to blow them off. But what was happening was everything was getting so hot that it was literally melting the pen in half. And I think I sent you a photo of the very first one.
Yep.
The pen literally like melted over, and the drill bit came out the side of the tube. And like I was watching Weston when he was running it, and he tried to pull the pin out, and he couldn't pull it out of the holder, so we had to blow it all the way out the back of the machine. But I was glad that we were eventually able to figure out a recipe, and through coolant drills is definitely the way to do those guys
in the future. Yeah, and for context, it is a 1/4-inch hole that is going, 4 inches deep or something like that?
Almost 5.
Almost 5. So it's basically a 20 times diameter deep hole.
Yeah, which is the deepest hole I've ever done to date by diameter size.
And it's in nice gummy aluminum.
Yeah.
So
which and the way I'm holding it, the face of the part is at the face of the jaw, basically.
Mm-hmm.
So I can be the closest to center and keep my drill bits from walking. And so all of the part is way inside the spindle, and so no coolant can't get to it except through the drill.
Interesting. Do you think it would make a difference if you were holding it farther out, so you'd have more surface area in contact with the coolant?
Potentially. I didn't try that, but that would probably help. My thinking was I didn't want the drill bits to walk because I didn't have enough tools to do a center drill. I don't have enough drill holders because I had to use 4 drills, a 1/4 inch, a long reach .246, a long reach .136, and then a long reach .098. I think
something like that. Yeah, just under 100 thou. That sounds right.
Yeah, and so by the time I had all of those tools in there, I didn't have space for a center drill. And so I wanted to keep everything close to the chuck face and give it the best chance from not walking off center. And thankfully, my 1/4 inch tool was a carbide drill. All the rest were high speed steel. So I was able to get the first, and it was a short drill because you only have the top little bit as a 1/4 inch. Exactly.
Yes.
So.
Did you drill and then ream, or did you just drill?
I didn't have space to add a reamer. It's just drilled. So we can add a reamer into the cycle if we need to. But
so did you drill 1/4 inch all the way through that?
No, I drilled 1/4 inch down for that space, and then I dropped it down to that .246, so 4 thou under.
So the only reason that .246 exists is because it's the pre-ream drill. So you could have actually done 1/4 inch all the way through if you were going to.
Oh, okay. I didn't realize that.
Yeah, sorry, I should have been more clear.
So, anyways.
Yeah, because those long drills I sent you, the parabolics, those were 1/4 inch.
Oh, they were?
Yeah.
I didn't realize that. I drilled a couple of them with that. I don't know if you'll be able to tell a difference. But I did drill a couple of them with that.
When we were talking, I totally forgot that when I made the prototypes, I split them in half. And therefore, the hole was half as deep.
Mm-hmm.
I had forgotten about that. I was like, it wasn't that hard to drill. I drilled it on my Tormach. But yeah, it was a 2-inch hole and not a 5-inch hole.
Yeah,
Big difference there.
And it was fine until about 3/4 of the way down. That's where the heat started to build up. And you can watch the photos of some of them that I took. You can see the first one where it blew out, and then the next one, the heat zone is moved down and is not as big. And I just slowly moved that heat zone down until it was at the end of the part or out of the part, and then I was fine.
Yeah, once the chips can't get out, there's kind of this vicious cycle of the chips cause more friction, which heats up the aluminum, which makes it more gummy, which causes more friction, which heats up the aluminum. There's my air compressor right on cue.
It is a vicious cycle, and it was for a while. I was stopping it every peck and blowing water and coolant and air down the part to cool it down, and that was how I got the first good one. Before I slowed everything, and I just kept slowing everything down until eventually I didn't have to do that. So, but I was like reading online, like, how do you deep drill aluminum without through coolant? So, but anyways, the minis, on the other hand, were a joy to run. I absolutely love those things. I would run those things all day, every day. They were so much fun, and I just loved like fidgeting with them while I was running them. So I think they turned out really good.
My air compressor's still running.
Oh, you're good. Let's see here. Was there anything else on those? No, we can get a reamer. What are you going to be using for your 1/4-inch post? Are you getting some material that's like slightly, it's precision, that's undersized, or right at 1/4-inch?
My plan is to probably use the 3/8 inch, not Delrin, what's that called? The Ultem that I already have, and to just machine it to that size for the prototypes. For the production ones, I'm going to have you machine it to size, because I don't think you can get plastic in precision, and if you could, it'd be super expensive, especially out of Ultem.
True. Which I'm about to run some Ultem. I just got an Ultem job, optometry.
Oh, nice.
So I'm going to run my first Ultem job. It's going to be on the mill, but
okay.
Does it machine just like normal plastic?
No. It's kind of halfway between aluminum and plastic.
Okay.
It's I found it to be much easier to machine than like Delrin.
Oh, really?
Yes. It's not as gummy and sticky. It's hard.
I've had no issues with Delrin. Delrin has been amazing.
Yeah, it's Delrin. But Delrin is more flexible, and you get like weird deflections, where the Ultem PEI, it's much stiffer and harder.
Gotcha.
It's actually one of my favorite things that I've ever machined. Like,
is it
my
like
material of choice if it was cheaper?
Is it basically just like a cured resin?
I believe it's a thermoplastic.
Oh, okay.
Don't quote me on that, but they make Ultem 3D printer filament, so there's at least one version of it that is thermoplastic, but its melting point is really high.
Oh, interesting. Cool.
So it's like 600 Fahrenheit or something like that.
Oh yeah, that is really high for plastic, at least.
Well, I mean, C or something in that neighborhood.
I was gonna say 600 C. I think is where aluminum starts to melt. So
yeah, isn't that like 1,000 or 800, 853 or something like that? Melting temperature of PEI is 340 C. What's 340 C in Fahrenheit? 340. Back to math on podcast. 645 degrees Fahrenheit.
Yeah. And
aluminum melts at 100 or 1,200 degrees Fahrenheit or 600, 700 degrees Celsius.
Yeah. Somewhere in that range.
To my understanding, Ultem/PEI was originally designed and intended to be a replacement for aluminum. The goal is to have like a thermoplastic material with similar properties to aluminum in terms of weight and strength and hardness.
Oh, that's cool.
And I don't think they ever quite got there, but that was the intent.
They got close, at least. I mean, it close for plastic.
Closer than Delrin.
Yeah.
It's very sensitive on surface finish, and you can't run flood coolant. You have to use dry air is the best way.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
It also gets sticky when hot. That's why they use it for the beds of 3D printers. But it is not sticky when cold. But it reacts with the oil in coolant, and that can cause crazing, little cracks. But you don't need it, the coolant, so it's fine. You just use air.
Gotcha.
And it cuts really well. And it's also resistant to like basically all other chemicals. But for some reason, cutting oils are a no-no.
Well, I will remember that while I'm machining.
Yeah.
I pretty much run flood coolant on everything. Bar done.
Yeah, same.
So.
Do you even have any sort of air blast on your Tormach?
I have an aftermarket system that I put on.
Okay.
Basically something I handmade. Although I tore it apart when I got the vacuum work holding system to use the air for it, so I might not be able to do. I might just have to like sit there with an air compressor hose and go,
I mean, that works.
or just rig something up. But anyways, cool. Let's see here. What else? Kickstarter.
Kickstarter. Yeah. Should we go to the screen?
Yeah, let's ruin another podcast.
What?
So let's ruin another podcast.
Yeah. This was the Kickstarter that we launched earlier today. It launched at 12:30. We announced it at 1. Our goal is $788. It is now at $863 with, 18 backers. I backed it on the Design Everything account, which is a long story why it's not on the Design Everything account, but 18 backers at the moment. And yeah, I'm pretty happy with how it's doing. We had projected like 1,200 in sales, and I think we'll beat that. So.
Oh yeah. How do you do your projecting?
We look at the other Kickstarters and scratch our head.
Oh, okay.
So
okay.
It wasn't so much a projection as it was like this is the amount of money that will make it worth it.
Gotcha.
So.
Yeah, I think those coins look amazing. Like I've seen you posting a lot on them, and they just look great.
Yep, I'm very happy with how they're turning out. I learned some lessons in finishing that batch. In the next batch, I'm going to tumble them for longer and polish them. Whereas this batch, I just tumbled them and not for long enough. It made the colors a little bit more inconsistent, but
gotcha.
We will do a better job of that next time. Unfortunately, trying to get product photography and make the coins look like they look in reality was really difficult.
Yeah.
We had exactly one picture where the colors came out right that I thought was true to reality. Everything else, they look much more gray, whereas they have a little bit more color in them.
Oh, okay. Interesting. Yeah, I figured out how hard it was to take photos of metallic stuff whenever I did the Kickstarter for the Deck Defenders.
Yes.
I went to my local university and found a photography major who helped me out, and it was extremely challenging with the lighting to get that to not either blow out the camera or have the thing look like a black blob.
So you want to know a trick that I have just recently learned?
What's that?
So you set up your object and you set up your tripod, and whatever you do not touch either the object or the tripod. And you take your light and you position your light so that it highlights one aspect of your object. Take a picture. Then you, not touching anything except the light, you move the light until it highlights a different aspect of your project, and take another picture. And then you move your light again until you get, enough light in enough places. Then you take those pictures, you put them on top of each other in Photoshop with transparency, and you get a nicely lit image.
Interesting.
So, because if you use the right blend mode, basically only the light will be added, and you won't add the black blobs on top of things. So if you're taking a picture of something shiny, that's how you do it.
I'll have to play around with that.
But you have to do that like inside with very controlled lighting. You can't have any uncontrolled lighting. So
I was in a studio at the university. They had a really nice studio, and we were playing around with the lighting. We could take repeat photos real easy. They had a camera connected to a laptop on a tripod, and then floor lights that they could move around. So it was pretty fun.
We need to invest in better lights. It's not a super high priority because pictures, like, it's not production and it's hard to prioritize it. But if we could spend like $200 in nice lights, it would make our product photography a lot better. Yeah.
Yeah. At some point, presenting your products can be more important than the actual making of them. Like some of the Kickstarters that do the best, they have absolutely amazing photography.
Did I tell you about screwing up our website and what that did to sales?
Mm-mm.
So we redid our website a little bit. You wouldn't really be able to tell too much by looking at it, but we accidentally added a filler element. Like it just had like basically we added a section of the website where it was like place text here, and there was like lorem ipsum and stuff like that, and we were running paid advertisements at the time. And before we made that change, we were selling $200, $250 worth of carabiners a week. And then we accidentally made that change. And overnight, on our sales on that carabiner dropped to zero. And they stayed at exactly zero for a week until we fixed the problem. And now they're back up to where they were. So just one stupid website change killed 100% of our sales because we had that filler section of the website, like the Shopify building block kind of section. So this stuff matters. It probably matters less if you're not running ads and it's not a cold sale. But if for a cold sale, your website is super important.
Yeah. That's interesting. The psychology of people is interesting, which it makes sense because whenever you and I go to look at a product to buy something, like the first thing you probably do if you're anything like me is you go investigate their website and try to scrounge everything you can.
And make sure the company is legit.
Exactly.
And a stupid mistake like that makes you look not legit.
Yeah. Yeah. We probably need to redo our website at some point.
Yes.
So.
Do you know the biggest problem with your website?
What is it?
It's that you don't know what you do as a business yet. And
that's true.
So you have a little bit of everything on there, and so it's not coherent. It's a perfectly fine website other than you're trying to do too many things at the same time.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I would most definitely agree with that.
I would either section it off into like two different websites or have just like two very clear divisions on your website.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true.
Have precision ingenuity guns and precision ingenuity manufacturing or something like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I should probably spend some time and think about what that would actually look like. It's just another thing to do.
Yep. I understand. I was looking at insulating the attic in this building today, and it was like, I could do this by myself, but it would definitely pay for itself in terms of the heating and cooling payback period. It'd be within a year, I think. But it's another thing I've got to do. So now I'm considering having someone come in and do it for me. I may try to con my dad into doing it or helping me with it, because then it could be a day project instead of a 3-week project.
Yep. Now, you did you mention this last time, or did I just hear you talk about it on a story? Lathes. You were looking at lathes here recently.
I am thinking about lathes. I wouldn't say that I am looking at lathes. Like, we're not exclusive yet. We're just talking. It wouldn't be within the next 6 months, I think. I'm just thinking about lathes. Like, if a used Tormach 15L showed up for $6,000 or something like that, I would jump on it. If some other good deal came up, I would consider it. But at this point, I'm just trying to figure out what I don't know and like what the options are out there. And then when the cash becomes available, we can actually start thinking about it.
Have you thought about what type of products you'd want to run on it, and how big of a spindle you would actually need, or how many tools you would need? Like, have you ever thought about it?
At this point, I'm thinking it would basically be 4 pens or keychain items. So I think I wouldn't need more than an inch swing, really.
Okay. Yeah, I was going to say, most of your products are pretty small, so probably like anything that would be a 5C, call it, you could probably do. What about tooling? Do you know how many tools you think you would need?
I have no idea about that yet.
Okay.
I don't think I would need too many because, like, I designed this stuff myself and I can design it to fit the tools. The one big thing is if I am doing pens, my plan on these pens is to have some generative patterns on the side here, and those would need live tooling. Though they wouldn't need a y-axis, but they would need live tooling.
Or are you going to do them on your 4th axis?
So that is the current plan. But if
Okay.
I was buying a machine to make pens, I would buy a machine that could make the pens. Like,
They do make live tooling add-ons you can add to machines.
yes.
I've thought about that on some level. I think it'd be a little bit challenging with the Haas, honestly.
You have spindle orientation, correct?
I do not.
Okay.
I do, but I don't. It's a feature you have to turn on. It costs like $3,000, and I don't know.
Is it just a software feature, or is it
It's a software
feature?
I mean, it has an encoder because it can do threading, and you can turn it on, and it'll tell you the orientation of the spindle.
Oh, really?
I have a tryout period. I have like 200 hours or something. And I turned it on a couple times because there was a couple projects that I thought I might need it for, just to kind of get my hands dirty with it a little bit. And it's really cool because I can set a value and have the spindle turn to that value and then hold.
Yep.
But I don't have it officially turned on. I just turned on the tryout period for a little bit. So, because I will need spindle orientation if I ever try to bar pull square bar. Because I need it. I need to stop at a known angle so that I don't crash into it when I try to go in with my bar puller. So
yeah, unless your bar puller was like round in the diameter of from corner to corner.
Yeah, mine's not.
Oh, you already have your bar puller, so you can't do that. Okay.
Yeah, I have a bar puller. It's basically it's 2 fingers, and you have to set the width beforehand based on the material you're trying to use. And then it basically rams onto the side of the part and it splits the fingers apart while it rams onto the material because the fingers have like a tapered section. And then once it's on there, then you unlock it, pull it forwards, lock it, and then you feed out in Z or in X. And that's what releases it. And the problem is with those fingers, those ramps, they're designed for at a really shallow angle. And so if you try to ram onto a square bar and you caught a corner, that thing would be toast.
Yeah. Fair enough. But in terms of lathes I was considering, I mean, the Tormach lathe, I've really only heard good things about it, though I don't like how it is steppers and not servos.
Mm-hmm.
It's also a little bit expensive compared to other lathes, but if you get one used, it wouldn't be bad.
I'm amazed they don't have one with the ClearPath servos.
I suspect we will see one eventually. The 15X or whatever they want to call it. I suspect that will exist because they have all the technology.
They do, but they had the Tormach 1100, then they had the 1100M, and then they had the 1100MX, and they did that all pretty quick. It was like within a year for each revision. And so I'm just amazed that they haven't done that with the lathe yet, because it's been a year or two.
I don't think the lathe has had a revision in a long time, though, right?
It hasn't.
I suspect we get a big revision of the lathe at some point.
Yeah.
That's my guess. But, yeah, so the Tormach lathe is an option. The Haas CL1, I think it is an option, though I would need to talk to some people who have had one. One of those GT27 lathes is an option. Maybe even something like a used Swiss. But I don't know. I'm just poking around right now.
Yep. So I don't know if I've mentioned this before on the podcast or not. I've got an itch right now that me and Weston have slowly been developing.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. I think we'd like to make a knife.
Ooh. You may have mentioned that before, unless you're just in our after podcast time, but
yeah,
that would be a fun project.
I think we'd like to make, because we got the Pearson pallet system, which basically screams some sort of product, and we've got a lot of knife makers in the community, and they all seem to do really well. I would love to get some more products rolling, because our Etsy store is constant. It's I can guarantee that I'm going to get, X amount of dollars within a pretty tight range every month. And it's really consistent, bar holidays or special events that cause it to spike. But it's pretty consistent throughout the year. and I would like to see if I can grow that some more, because it is the most stress-free income that
Yes.
we have. And it would be awesome if it was a little bit more. And I would love to have some just products that I could run and sell. And plus, a knife sounds like it'd be a ton of fun.
Yes. Yeah, knife is on my list, either for this year, end of this year, or beginning of next year.
So,
would you do a fixed blade or a folder?
I would probably do a fixed blade, or if I wouldn't do a folder unless it was some sort of utility knife, which I know they've been overdone to like death at this point. But I would still love to do one because they all look pretty cool.
I've been carrying my Turnback Knife Company utility blade. I don't remember what he calls it. It has become the knife that I carry every day, which I actually don't have any knife with me right now. But like, I don't know. Just when I started working from home, I stopped carrying my bigger knife. I had a really nice Ace Biblio, which is a really nice knife. But like, I don't know. I just stopped using it and stopped carrying it. Then I got that Turnback Knife Company knife, and it's been in my pocket every day. It doesn't fall out of my pocket like my Ace Biblio would. So I mean, those knives have been overdone, those utility blades, and it's because they're good and they get used.
Yeah. I would like to do something. I've had a lot of different ideas. A lot of those ideas have been done in some way, form, or fashion, which is kind of annoying, but I mean, it's kind of nice at the same time. There's not really a new idea under the sun, just a different version of it, kind of a deal.
Yeah, that's how the knives are. Pens are the same way.
Yeah.
Innovation on a knife is like, I used an angle of 7.5 degrees instead of 7.25 degrees.
Yeah.
And it's.
Yeah. And so I don't really want to necessarily reinvent everything, but I would like to have it be uniquely precision ingenuity, whatever that means. And we don't have a defined style.
Laser and customization.
Point. Yeah. Well,
not joking.
I like skeletonized. Like, I'd love to do something skeletonized. We have a local guy who's been in the business of knife making for, 20, 30 years. And we went and visited his shop a few months ago, and he had a skeletonized knife that was just all one piece. And it just, something about it caught me, and it just looked so cool. And I was like, I really like that.
I have sketches for a knife that was the fixed blade. The majority of the knife was going to be skeletonized titanium, and then I was just going to have kind of a very thin strip of knife steel as an edge. And my theory was it could be like a fairly large knife, but it would be like the lightest possible knife. Kind of like the Not for Climbing carabiners, basically the lightest possible carabiner. It was going to be like the Not for Climbing knife.
Yeah.
I have abandoned that idea, though. You can take that idea if you want. I think when we do a knife, it'll be a simple slip lock. Yeah. Maybe in the style of like a Swiss Army knife with some nice generative elements, kind of a gentleman's knife.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I need to think about the knife that I would like to see the most, and that would probably, like, what kind of knife would I like to have? Like, I need something that I'm gonna carry all the time and be happy with it before I try to sell it, and then that'll make a good product. And that's something that I've struggled with some, is that I'm very content with everything that I have, and the people that make the best products are the people that are not content, and so they go out and make the thing that they wish existed. And so I need to be more picky and try to find something that I really, really like. And then
do you have a bunch of knives? Like, are you a quote unquote knife guy?
I am not a knife guy, not even in the slightest. Like, I have one knife, or no, I probably have 3 knives. I have a Benchmade, I have a Kershaw, and then I have a Junker. And the most recent knife I bought was a Benchmade, and that was probably back in 2015. So I don't buy. Now that being said, I have a buddy who's had 3 Grimsmo knives, and he's
Okay.
offered to he's offered to sell me one of them at one point. And if I had had the money at the time, I probably would have bought it. I got to play around with it, and Grimsmo makes a ridiculously nice knife. Like,
Was it a Rask or a Norseman?
it was a Norseman, and it
I don't
was.
think I'd buy a Norseman, but I would buy a Rask.
I really like the Norsemans. Like, I always have. In the knife community right now, there's a lot of people that don't like them because of the shape.
I don't mind the blade shape. I like the blade shape. I don't like a lot of his handle engravings.
Oh,
This goes back to me thinking the Saga is an ugly pen. It's just like we have a different style, and that's fine. Like, I don't think his style is wrong. It is just not mine, and he can have his, and I'll have mine. But a lot of his Rasks are really sweet.
But what I really liked about that Norseman was it was ridiculously thin compared to what in my head it would feel like, compared to its width and its length, and it was really easy to flip open. One of the smoothest knives I've ever used, but I'm not a big knife guy, so that's not saying too much. I know there's probably smoother knives out there, but just everything about it, the fit, the finish, the presentation, the detail, the attention to detail and everything, it's just a really nice knife, in my opinion. I've seen other knives that were really nice, and maybe it's because I'm more invested in Grimsmo because I'm of the machining and the story and how long I've been following him. But none other knife has quite struck me quite like that one that I've come across to date.
If you really wanted to make a knife, I think what I would recommend to you is go to buy 3 CRKT knives that are each, $20, $30, and just kind of get an idea of the other end of the spectrum. Because a lot of your knives are higher end. And there's actually some pretty nice CRKTs that maybe don't have the same material quality, but the design is pretty good.
Yeah. I know that. Go ahead.
I was going to say, there's the CRKT Squid, which is a classic. It's like $12, or it used to be. It's probably $20 now. It's just a good little small folder. The knife that got me into knives was the CRKT Pilar.
Mm-hmm.
And the Ace Biblio is basically like the high-end version of that knife. And I still love the Pilar. So I learned on CRKT and then moved up a tier.
Yeah. I don't know. We'll see. It's an itch that I would eventually like to scratch. I just don't know when. But probably going to get a new machine before I do that.
Okay. You're not going to pay for the new machine with the knives?
No, I would love to. I'd love to keep the Tormach and have it be an aluminum plastic machine, and then maybe do if we do a solid knife, I'd love to have it do those the sheaths.
Okay.
I forget what they make them out of.
Kydex.
Kydex, yeah, the Kydex sheaths. Because that's the process that you don't really want to stick in your nice machine, but it would be perfect for a Tormach. So, but anyways.
So, carabiners. You had mentioned that earlier, and we didn't get back around to it.
Oh, yeah.
So I have been working on perfecting the process for making the carabiners.
Mm-hmm.
Today, I finally implemented the change that you recommended, I think last episode or after the last episode, which was switching from using screws and dowel pins to just using shoulder bolts.
Mm-hmm.
So the shoulder bolts came in and works beautifully. So that's definitely a good improvement. It makes the whole process a lot more simple. It eliminated 2 tools from the machining, and that's been a big win.
That's awesome. I'm glad to hear that.
I'm still having some kind of weird surface issue effects on 2 sides of it. There's basically a line that goes straight down the middle of the carabiner, and one side of the line has a pretty decent finish, like a very acceptable finish, and the other side is, depending on the setting, somewhere between and meh. So We got
Is
to meh today, but
is the top of it really nice and the bottom of it really nasty?
no, it's left right.
Oh, it's not
That's
up
what's
down.
weird. So the right side is beautiful. The left side is not.
Interesting.
I have
Is
a
it
lead from my last test. But
okay?
go on.
I was gonna say, does it have anything to do with slotting for your flexure? Is the area that's not doing so good in a flexure zone where the other part is in a more solid zone?
No, it's not. It's farther away from the flexure. Also, the flexure has not been cut yet when I'm at this point.
Oh,
wait, no, is that true? That's a lie. No, the flexure has been cut. But yeah, it's at the other side.
Do you do your internal flexure cut before you do your perimeter?
I do.
I almost wonder if you should do it the other way.
I could try.
I don't know if that makes a difference or not.
My theory was the flexure, like basically my general rule of thumb is least material removal to most material removal. So the things stay rigid as much as possible.
That being said, how many screws? Okay, if you're looking at the carabiner, do you have 2 screws holding your arm and 2 screws holding the main body?
No, I have 1 screw on each side.
Then yeah, I bet what's happening is if you're cutting your slot first, you're acting like a harmonica or something where it can vibrate.
It could be.
And so you should do your perimeter and then your slot, I think.
I could try that. One weird thing is the finish on one side the finish is worse by the screw, and on the other side the finish is better by the screw.
I think you need 3 screws to hold this thing in.
It's possible. I can play with that because you're right. If it's
vibrating,
if it's tuning forking on me, it wouldn't necessarily be as simple as close to screw good, far from screw bad, because those vibrations would not be that predictable.
Mm-hmm.
That is a good thought. My other thought, and this is what I had an observation that led me to this today, where I tried increasing my depth of cut, and I ended up breaking the end mill, which was a good thing, because I noticed when the end mill broke, the portion of the slot that it was cutting in was just absolutely packed with chips. And I think that is what broke the end mill, but it could mean that in some portions of in some portions of the cut, coolant access is good and doing a good job of clearing chips, and in some portions, coolant access is bad.
So let me ask you a question. Are you slotting the material to final width, or are you doing like are you slotting with a couple thou to leave around your part and then coming back and finishing it?
So originally I was slotting to final. In order to attempt to fix this issue, I have been doing what you said, and I slot down and then I go back with a full depth finishing pass.
Okay. Has that made a difference?
It definitely helped the finishes everywhere. Like the average finish of the whole carabiner is much better, but it still has this weird, the right half is bad and the left half is good.
Yeah, I think that's going to be a tuning fork issue. And just adding 1 more screw into one of the 2 arms will keep that, because if you have the tuning fork or the flexure in the middle and you have a screw on this side and a screw on this side, if the whole thing can wiggle back and forth, if you can lock one of those arms, it's going to keep the other one from being able to vibrate as much.
True.
Just by having one side locked down fully.
Although I have tried adding tabs, and the tabs did not make a difference at all.
Yeah, but I've noticed with tabs I never get a good finish. Personally, myself at least.
Yeah, but I had a lot of tabs and I had the screw, so I think it was pretty rigid. But
have you
it's
stopped
definitely
it
something I can experiment with.
Have you stopped it before breaking through the bottom of the part to see?
I never break all the way through. I leave nominally a 1 thou onion skin.
Okay, so you have an onion skin all the way around it.
Yep.
Okay, so maybe you aren't vibrating, if that's the case.
Let's see. I can't go back and fill it with hot glue because I'm going all the way around the perimeter.
Now, if you're going to do anything, it'd be another screw hole.
Yeah, another screw. I think it's the way to test.
That'd be the easiest. And you might only do it on one of the fixtures and one part
as a test.
As a test before you do it on everything. That'd be the easiest thing to do. Are you adding any chamfers to anything?
I am now, yes.
Okay. Does that? I bet that makes it look so. A good chamfer makes all the difference in the world.
Unfortunately, because of the aforementioned screws, I don't have the ability to chamfer all the way around the outside, but I can chamfer the holes and the inside of the slot.
Oh, you can't chamfer by the screws because it'll take the heads off?
Yes. In fact, with the shoulder bolts have a slightly larger diameter head than the socket head cap screws that I was using, and they get shaved every time I run it now, which it doesn't seem to affect anything. The end mill doesn't care, but all of my shoulder bolts are going to slowly have smaller diameter heads.
You can probably chamfer by them. Like you said, you're going to slowly eat down the heads anyways. If you got like a 1/8 inch or smaller chamfer bit, and then you set your offset to where the top of it is just barely past the top of your part. That way you're just barely chamfering past. And like I said, you'll eventually eat up your shoulder bolts to the point where they'll have clearance, but you could probably do that and then chamfer the whole outside of the part. There's many instances with job shop work that I do that they want chamfers that I will put my chamfer tip offset as low as I can. That way I can get the body of it as close to the edge of a section as possible.
Yeah, I have some 1/8 inch tools. I have some drill mills have a 60-degree chamfer, and they may be able to get a little bit more clearance in there even.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? Never mind. I don't know if that matters. But
the angle doesn't matter.
Yeah, the angle doesn't matter. Never mind. I can just do like a optional portion of the program that goes and trims all the heads of all the screws to give me clearance.
Or what you could do is you could just load them up on a drill bit and go up to a sander and then just rotate them and just go and then measure.
I have 60 screws to do, 60 shoulder bolts.
Oh, that's true. That might be.
But I could just have the program do it.
Yeah.
I need to helicoil all those holes, which I'm not looking forward to.
Oh, did it rip it out already?
Yeah, the shoulder bolts have so little thread on them. I couldn't find them with more than, I don't know what it is. It's basically one diameter's worth of threads.
Yeah, that's how most shoulder bolts are.
And so they just tear out those 440 threads.
Oh, yeah, they're 440.
Yeah, I have all the helicoils. I still have that same plate of material because I've been testing one carabiner at a time and I just haven't gotten around to taking it off and doing it yet, but I will.
That'll be good. Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing those because just looking at them on the camera briefly, that one that you showed, it looked so much better.
They are so much better. They're 1,000 times better. And I got the thickness of there's 3 variables: the thickness of the carabiner, the thickness of the walls, and then the width of the slot. I have 3 different variables that I can play with there, and I think I have those dialed in now, where the force is just right. It is, I would say, probably twice as stiff as the Not for Climbing carabiner.
Oh, that sounds perfect.
And I have it so it has a tactile click when you open and close it now, which was originally something I considered a flaw in the original Not for Climbing. Some of them did that, some of them didn't. And I considered it a defect when they did have that click. I have now intentionally added that click, but because everything's machined and not lasered, it's much more consistent. Does yours click?
Awesome. No, it doesn't.
Yeah.
It does, like maybe if you hold it at a weird angle, but I think that's click is more from the aluminum that's keeping everything together rather than the other.
The other nice benefit of the thicker material is there's a way, way, way less of that sideways play. I actually don't even know if it would need any lateral stability from the scales, but it has it. So it's like good, extra good.
So you're machining those little slots into these. Are you using a different end mill just for that area?
Yep, I go with a 1/16 inch tool, which
Are you,
ironically has given me the best finishes and has been the most reliable step in the process.
yeah, I've noticed that before. Did you by chance drill those holes out and then go in with the 1/16th, or are you just straight?
Nope, I ramp back and forth.
Okay. Cool. Because you can almost go in there with the drill bit and drill that out at like early on, and then come back in and use the 1/16th to blend everything in. I don't know if that'd make it any faster or help anything, but just a thought.
I'm not sure. There's a lot of the material removals done with the 2.5 millimeter that I'm currently using on the outside.
Mm-hmm.
Though, one more thing I need to try on the surface finish issue on the outside is I'm using a 2.5 millimeter on the outside and a 3 millimeter on the slot. And basically, the only reason I'm still using the 2.5 millimeters on the outside is because that's how I originally programmed it. Because originally the slot was going to be 2.5 millimeters, and I just never changed the outside toolpath. And that extra 0.5 millimeter may give me enough rigidity to make a difference.
Please tell me, because you're machining these and because you're going to have a nicer finish on the edges, that you're thinking about anodizing the titanium in-house.
No, never.
Why?
It's against the Better Keychain style guide.
What do you mean?
It literally, like, we have a style guide on how we design our products, and one of the rules is no anodization.
I think that would look amazing.
I think it'll look fine in somebody else's product line.
I'm going to create a product line that says, in spite of HA. It's going to be all the same products, but anodized.
The pragmatic machinist on Chris on Instagram has been threatening to buy my carabiners and anodize them. Because you're not the first person I've had this conversation with.
Yeah.
And, like, I have nothing against the finish, but Better Keychains is about bold, bright colors. And the anodized titanium colors are dull. And, like, that's just not the style. We do bright colors, and anodized colors are kind of dull.
I held that Grimsmo knife, and it was a very bright blue color. I thought it was.
Okay, so you can get a bright blue, you can get like a kind of aqua, you can get a fairly saturated brown. That's about it.
I still think it'd look really good.
You can get a green if you work really hard, but
yeah, I might have to join that group where we're going to start buying your stuff and anodizing and reselling it.
If somebody wants to buy my stuff wholesale and anodize it and then sell it, I will work with you. Just buy my stuff and it'll be fine.
Yeah, there you go.
I mean, the scales are open source.
Mm-hmm, that's true.
Though I need to revise that because now the scales are a different size than they were. They got 20 thou shorter. Yeah, I think with this new carabiner, we have gone up a quality tier.
Yeah.
Like,
just from looking at it on the camera, I would say. Have you posted any photos of it by chance?
I don't think so, other than Instagram stories. We've been focused on the coins on grid posts.
Okay. Because I would love to see some posts on it. Because
yeah, I'll do more on that.
I would love to see some high quality images of it.
Yeah, I can get some like microscope images. I think that'd be cool.
Yep. Yeah, because you did a really good job on this one, and I'd love to see more.
Part of the reason I haven't posted grid photos of it yet is I've only done Op 1, and I haven't actually tested Op 2.
Oh.
Because I'm still like tweaking the design a little bit. I'm playing with the geometry on that hinge just slightly.
How are you planning on doing Op 2? Are you going to use the
flip it and shoulder bolts?
Okay. Excuse me. No.
Yeah, the Op 2 is just deburring and countersinking those threaded holes.
Okay.
So that's all there is to it. So I'm
Are you
not too worried about it.
You're tapping all the way through from one side, right?
Yes.
Okay.
So lately, I'm back to breaking taps,
Uh-oh.
which is annoying. So when I first set it up, I broke a tap, and then I changed my drills. I went to an oversized drill, and it was fine. But I was using a drill that was too much oversized, and the threads weren't doing very well. The threads weren't strong enough.
Mm-hmm.
And so then I went back to the correctly sized drill, and then I broke the tap. And that's basically as far as I've gotten. I think it's just because it's so deep. It's deeper than I was tapping before when I first tested it.
Gotcha.
So I'm going to try peck tapping.
Can you... Is there only the too far oversized and then the correct size? Is there not a drill in between those two?
I would need to look, but I don't know if there is. I have there's this 20 thou range of drills that are all in the neighborhood of the 80 tap drill size, and I have 10 drills in that 20 thou. The problem is the difference between a 50% thread and a 75% thread is, I believe, 2 thou.
Yeah, it's something like that. It's not much.
It's not much. So I think I was doing a 30% thread, which was 4 thou oversized.
Yeah, that's yeah. Now I was thinking a 55%. That would be right about the perfect, because you would have enough that it would be still classified as decently strong, but the largest possible size.
I'll take a look through what I have again.
Okay.
I'm going to try the peck tapping and see if that does it. Because this is a A80 hole. The nominal diameter on that is, I believe, 60 thou on the thread. I think it's the outside diameter of the thread is 60 thou.
Yeah,
Don't quote me on that. It's in that ballpark.
That sounds about right.
And I'm tapping 210 thou deep. So there's just so much friction there that it snaps the tap. So I think if I peck tap it, it might avoid those issues.
Maybe. Do you
just
use any
reduction?
Do you use anything other than the coolant?
Right now, I'm just using coolant.
So whenever I was doing those, the really bad titanium job last week, I have this. It's not it's kind of like a tapping oil, but it's not. It's a special spray specifically designed for tapping aluminum, and because aluminum is a gummy material, and it's slipperier than your standard tapping oil. And because I tried regular tapping oil and I kept breaking taps, but then I switched over to this stuff, and that's what allowed me to hand tap all of those holes.
Interesting.
And it worked phenomenal. I couldn't have done all those holes without it. And basically, I just squirted a little bit in all the holes before I tapped them, and it went through like butter. And I could tell when the tap was starting to lose its cutting edge because of the friction buildup. But when the tap was brand new and I sprayed that oil in, you could almost do it by hand through it because it was so free spinning.
Interesting.
So, and that was with a cut tap, and I believe you're using a form tap.
Correct.
So for you, it'd be even better because heat is the number one issue with titanium, is that heat buildup. Even hand tapping it, they would get hot. I could feel the parts. They would get several degrees warmer tapping 080 tapped holes, and there's only 2 of them in the part. And I could feel the temperature difference between the before and after tapping.
You know, now that I'm thinking about it, the only reason I was doing it like tapping all the way through is because before I was making them in one op. Mm-hmm. And now I'm not doing them in one op. So there's no reason I couldn't just tap,
from both
40
sides.
thou deep on one side, flip it, tap 40 thou deep on the other side. I don't need to tap 210 thou deep just because it's there.
No, you don't. That's why I was asking.
You could drill all taps.
You could drill all the way through and then just tap it from one side, then when you flip it over, tap from the other. Although I don't know if you want to drill all the way through, and then might if there's any misalignment, you will shatter a tap at that point.
Yeah, I'd probably drill from both sides. No reason to drill, I don't remember the Imperial size, but I believe that's a 1.35 millimeter drill. No reason to mill 1.35 millimeters by 6 millimeters deep.
I just had a Xometry job that I did in stainless where I had a number 3 tapped hole that went through a 1/2 inch thick part, and it was drill and tap from either end, and it met in the middle. And so I would drill just a little bit past center, and I would tap to center.
Okay.
From both ends. And that went well. And the holes lined up perfectly.
So they didn't want just one thread all the way through? Like they specifically specified?
Mm-hmm.
Why?
Because there isn't really a number 3 tap that I know of that goes a 1/2 inch thick. So they just called it out.
Fair enough. I'm sure somebody makes that, but
I'm sure someone makes that. But to reduce the cost of manufacturing, they were like, "Don't try to tap this all the way through." They just said, because it doesn't need to be. And so, anytime I see a hole that's tapped all the way through in a part similar to that, whether it's be through Xometry or my local customers, I always try to ask, "Can this be tapped from both ends?" Because it makes the odds of breaking a tap go down drastically in those instances.
And it only matters if you're threading a fastener all the way through.
Exactly.
Which I'm not doing. So I'm going to make that change tonight. There's no reason to do it the way I'm doing it. It's just going to break a lot of taps.
No,
even if I can get it working, it'll be a less reliable process in the long run. So
yeah, I would drill to center at least, and then maybe tap to center, or maybe a little bit less, but
why though?
I guess you don't. How far do your screws go into it, your handle?
They're teeny tiny. I believe they are 1/8 inch, and they are flatheads. So only like half of that is threads. So it's like a 1/16 of an inch.
Okay. Yeah. So yeah, you don't need to go that far. Yeah.
I did just catch another mistake. I have been using my chamfer tool to do those countersinks, but it is a 90-degree chamfer tool, and my flatheads are 82 degrees.
Oh. So when you're doing those chamfers, here's a quick question. Are you drilling those with your chamfer tool, or are you actually running a chamfer tool? Okay.
Yeah, on that small of a thread, I just boop. And it's part of my, I have a template that's like tapping 80 in titanium, and it has the drill, the tap, and the chamfer.
Okay.
So all I do is right click and hit, insert template.
Do you chamfer before or after tapping?
I do it after, which I know people say is bad for your taps. However, I would prefer the don't raise a burr aspect of it.
I do it before.
You do? Yeah. I think that's probably the quote-unquote right way of doing it.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't do it that way. I did so I have been machining on let's say a full-sized machine since, I don't know, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, something like that. I have just replaced my chamfer mill for the first time. Yeah. I've had the same one follow me through like 3 different machines.
Yeah, my chamfer tool is the only tool in my machine that never goes out. Or never goes out in the sense of like I never take it out of the machine unless it's broken. And I have broken it many times.
You've broken the chamfer tool?
Oh yeah.
What size do you use?
1/4 inch.
I didn't think you could break those.
Oh yeah,
like pretty much indestructible.
Oh yeah, it's real easy. What you do is you start on the wrong line of code, and you have it try to chamfer before the material's gone. and then your chamfer tool works for about 3 inches, which is very impressive.
Yes.
And then the tip disappears.
Did it break off on the tip or on the shake side?
On the tip of it. Okay. Like it was still chamfering, just the very tip of it basically drags through the material, and that's what ends up breaking.
Does yours come to a tip, like a sharp point?
Oh yeah.
Okay, so mine do not. Mine have probably a 50 thou flat.
Yeah, mine, all of mine go to a tip, and I need that because I'm working at the very tip and I'm working at the very bottom. I use the whole range of that thing. So
yeah. So this is why I haven't broken one, because I don't care about the tip, because there is none.
Yeah. Yeah, mine always breaks, and it always breaks at the bottom quarter, and then I have to replace it.
I have been considering just getting rid of my chamfer tool altogether, because I always have a 1/4-inch ball mill, and at the scale of the things that I make, a 5 thou or a 10 thou chamfer with a 1/4-inch tool is basically like it might as well be a straight chamfer. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And it's just taking up a tool pocket.
Yeah, how would you reliably is that because like there's the chamfer feature in Fusion, which is really nice. So how would you coordinate that with the programming? Is there an easy way to use the chamfer, the ball and mill, as a chamfer tool?
I believe that the chamfer function works with ball mills. If it doesn't, if the chamfer toolpath doesn't work with ball mills, you can do a 2D contour and then click the chamfer checkbox. And I know 100% that definitely does work with ball mills. But I think the normal Fusion toolpath works with ball mills.
Okay.
I could be wrong. Like, no one sue me if it doesn't. But
with that in mind, would a 1/4-inch ball mill be able to get into all the different areas your chamfer tool needs to? Like, because there's some really small features on your carabiners that I'm not so sure a ball and mill would be able to properly do.
At least I haven't made the switch yet, so I don't know. But I think mostly.
Okay.
Because remember, my chamfer tool isn't sharp anyway, so it's not like I'm getting that, zero clearance there.
True.
Yes, Fusion will happily run a ball mill as a chamfer tool using the chamfer toolpath.
Interesting.
So, and I think the deburr toolpath in the machining extension only uses ball mills. I don't think it'll let you do a chamfer tool.
I think it only uses a ball and mill as well.
Yeah. So that would save me a tool pocket.
Are you running out of tool pockets?
Generally, no. But it would be like one. Like I already use that other tool for other things, so it'd be one less tool that I have to manage.
What do you use the ball and mill on the carabiners for, if not for deburring?
I think the carabiners are like the one thing it doesn't get used on, but it does like all of the Better Desk stuff.
But you don't really have any chamfered stuff on the Better Desk stuff, do you?
There are some chamfers, but it's all surfaced with the ball mill.
Okay.
So I already have the ball mill in there.
I have an interesting thought just thinking about this a little bit. Have you ever run ROI calculations on the amount of products you can get through your machine in a 24-hour period or in a typical workday?
I haven't recently. I definitely did that when I had the Pocket NC, and that's what made me buy the Tormach, actually. Because it was like, if I maxed out the Pocket NC, I could make like $36,000 a year making branding irons. And I was like, oh, I kind of want to make more than that. I don't think it's mattered yet with the Tormach, because I know that I can make more. Like, the Tormach is not at capacity, and
it might not be at capacity, but I guess my question is, whenever I was doing, and this could be the wrong way to do pricing, but whenever I was doing the deck defenders, what ultimately made me decide the price of my product was how many of these can I do in a day and how much do I want to make per hour, plus material. And that set the minimum value that it needed to be And if that value was acceptable, or I could go higher than that, then it was a good product. And so that's some of how I've done my pricing. Have you ever looked at any of your products in that way? Like, do you ever do anything like that?
No, right now I don't consider the Tormach it's not a bottleneck. I could run it 10 times more than I'm running it now. Therefore, I only take into account my time. So
Okay.
I don't care if it runs 8 hours versus 4 hours right now, if I can save myself 20 minutes of human interaction time.
Yes, I get that, but I guess what I'm more worried about is, for me, it probably matters a little bit more because my machine is not at my house. So I can't just go out and change a pallet. I have a very finite amount of time that I can run my machine per day, which is usually in the 8 to 10 hour range, unless I can get it to run several hours after I'm gone. Which usually my machine, I haven't had any program that's really lasted over 3 hours, unless it's like a weird engraving or something. Most of my programs are under that. And so for me, if I can only get 8 hours in a day or 10 hours or 12 hours at most out of my machine, and I'm trying to make a certain amount of money, my machine has to produce at least that much or have the capacity to produce that much if I can sell that much. If that makes sense.
Yeah, I'm not too worried about that. I think my record on the Tormach was like 19 hours in a day once.
Okay.
When I am in the full swing of production, 16, 18 hours a day isn't really an issue for me.
Okay.
And that is
That buys
at
you a
least
lot.
$1,000, probably more per day in
Yeah.
Carabiners.
Yeah, that buys you a lot then.
Yeah.
Because I have much less time, and therefore I'm a lot more time sensitive to stuff running on my machine.
You also never do night runs, right?
I haven't been able to so far.
Yeah, because like with your deck defenders, if you had a pallet that made 4 of them or whatever, you could do job shop stuff during the day, load it up at night, hit go, walk away. Then you get a couple hours of free runtime every day.
I could fit 8 of them on my machine in a
Okay.
fixture, and that would run. The longest runtime was an hour and 30 minutes because I had everything optimized so fast that it could run through those parts that fast.
And actually, it's not runtime that matters. You don't want to optimize for runtime because then it's like, well, if I cut my speeds in half, I can get twice the runtime. Wow. You want to optimize per dollars per day, basically. And so by doing that, you would get an additional 8 times 60 or whatever dollars per day out of that machine.
Yeah. If I could, what I needed to make those things is I needed like a robot or some way to load and unload the machine offline where I'm not around. Then I could get a lot more throughput through the machine, and it would be a lot more cost effective to do something like the deck defenders and lower the price on them.
Yeah.
Which I don't have the ability to do yet. Although I don't know if I mentioned this, I did reach out to UARM, Universal Robotics, to try to start a conversation with them. I'd like to get them out to my shop to do a demo so I can take a look at their stuff. I have no idea if or when I will ever get any sort of cobot in my shop, but I would like to at least have them come bring me some stuff so I can look at it and see if it's like if I'm dreaming or if this actually would make sense at some point.
Yeah. I saw someone, I wish I remembered who it was, but they bought an air vise off of AliExpress or Alibaba that looked pretty decent. It was like, ooh, that would be cool. That's a good first step towards automation.
That would actually be a good product line, an air vise, because I don't see very many out there.
No, unless you're talking higher end stuff. Yeah.
Exactly. Like there's not like an entry level vise, air vise.
Yeah.
Like a Kurt air vise or a Tormach air vise or something like along those lines.
You can get bolt-on adapters for Kurt vices, but they're still very expensive. They're several $1,000s. And they just slide on the end of a Kurt vice. There is a company that I believe is called like Airvice or airvice.com or something like that. And they actually aren't too expensive. I think they're in the neighborhood of $1,600, $2,000, maybe $2,400. which I mean is still a lot of money, but compare like when you subtract out a Kurt Weiss from that, it's less. I don't know how much is like a 6-inch Kurt Weiss or 6-inch Orange Weiss.
It's like 1,200.
1,200, yeah. So you're paying an extra, $800,000 to make it automationable.
They might be a little bit less, but that's ballpark range.
So that was reasonable. I think the one that I saw on social media, I think it was an $800 Chinese Air Vice.
Yeah. Speaking of vices, what's going on with Flux? Has anyone heard anything from them?
I have a unconfirmed, heard something from a heard something, and I don't think I want to say that because it's too uncertain.
That's fair.
I don't want to repeat it. I'll tell you afterwards. I heard let's just call it a rumor. I don't know if it's true. I heard it basically. I'm like the fourth party involved in the game of telephone, but
gotcha. Yeah, because they had a very interesting product line that looked like it was doing really good. I've actually thought about getting some of them because there's a lot of stuff I do that it would be phenomenal for. But you can't really buy anything from them right now.
Nope, they fell off the face of the earth.
It's a hole to fill.
Yes, yeah. I mean,
not wrong.
I hope what I heard is wrong. I'll say it. I heard that there was some sickness involved.
Ooh.
Oh. Yeah. Anyway.
That's not
but
good.
I'm really hoping that what I heard is wrong and they're just like getting bought by Fifth Axis or something and that guy's making gobs of money. Because he was a good guy.
Yeah, he was.
So hopefully he pops back up again, but I don't know.
That would make sense and that would not be good. So
anyway, on that note, it's getting late. Would you like to take us out?
Yeah. I think this is one of the weeks we actually stayed on topic a little more than usual. So for those of you that are hanging on, we appreciate it. Please tell everyone yet again about the podcast. And this is Harrison with Precision Ingenuity signing out with AJ from Design the Everything.